Producers, artists, I want you to think about a few things before you end up signing a bad production deal. And I don't want to scare you here because production deals are still out there. Some of them are coming down, some of them want to come up. I don't know. I mean, they still exist. Sometimes this is the only opportunity that the artist has. But we're going to address a few points based on my experience, what I've been through, and what I'm going to share game-wise with you on today's episode of the Music Money Makeover Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Money Makeover Show. My name is Casey Graham. Let's hop right in this thing. So we got to address your thirst, your hunger, your ego. What it is you're actually trying to fulfill as a producer is recognition, getting recognition for being the best, the top dog, the boss level producer out there. I understand because that's what you saw when you had the vision and you said, yo, I can have like a production company and we can sign artists and like we can like do artist development and get them in shape and all of that. Like I know what you thought about when you saw that. You was like, yo, I can be the next and I know these guys are getting older in their age, but the next Dr. Dre, the Timbalands, the Pharrells of the world, because these are the pinnacles right here. I mean, we got a lot of new hit producers, but these are the pinnacles of guys out there who, we look at and we say, yo, they did some amazing stuff. Of course, it was a different era in the music industry, but we still look at these people and we're trying to feed your ego a recognition that you actually want for being the top dog to say that your art is great. And the one thing that a lot of you all want to do is sign artists to a production deal. So we got to really investigate what it's going to take for this to happen and pull this off successfully. So outside of just you, we're going to need an artist, and you're probably going to have to go through many artists before you pick that one to sign. You just don't want to sign the first one that you think is great. You got to give yourself options here. You got to consider where they're trying to go. Artists, you have to consider where you're trying to go as well. You don't want to get caught up with a producer too early, and producers, you don't want to get caught up with that artist too early. You got to figure out where each one of you are trying to go. You also need a company to facilitate all of this stuff right here, and you're also going to need a crew to help you facilitate the deal or some knowledge as well as the crew to really make that deal come to life. With all that being said, we're going to hop in, but I'm going to testify a little bit to this. What you're really hearing me say is experiences that I've had over my 23 years so far and counting in the music business. I've tried the production situation twice. I didn't lose. I just got lessons out of it. And I'll say that some deals broke evenly independently, and I got a learning lesson from it. Others slipped through my hands because, like I'm getting ready to tell you, I didn't have everything ready in the deal. It just didn't make sense. And so some things slipped through my hands and went major. It happens. Like, I'm not perfect, but I went through all of this stuff so I could understand what it is and I could tell you what you should and should look out for. Should not do, should do, and what you should look out for. So let's break down a couple of these key points right here. So we can get into it. We're going to talk about adequate studio for recording. We're going to talk about quality production. Can an artist get to you easily? Do you have a partner? What about marketing experience? What about the attorney? What about the company set up to fulfill the deal? What about the significant industry connections that you need to have to even pull the deal off? Will you co-manage the artist, shopping for a label deal? All this stuff we're going to get into right now. So our first thing is adequate studios to start recording. And I'm talking about your personal studio. So what you see here used to be a recording studio, but now it's like a YouTube studio. I got a desk and my awards and plaques and Grammys and stuff on the wall. But I recorded everything in this room for a lot of artists, and some artists I recorded in other studios. The thing is, do you have an adequate studio for the recording? Can your current studio facilitate the artist you want to sign? Because if you're trying to sign a band, then maybe a room like this wouldn't be good for a band, right? So you have to recognize what you're trying to sign. And then you have to take that sound for the recording and you have to compete with what's going on out there, okay? It's like getting on the freeway. When you get on the freeway, you don't want to get on at 40 miles an hour. And I understand you might be in a 1996 Honda. And then let's just compare a 1996 Honda to, we use another Honda, to a 2022 Honda Accord, all right? That 96 Honda is like, but the 2022 Honda Accord is like, right? And so it's just already flying. You're not going to get on that freeway, at 40 miles an hour and think you're going to match the speed of everybody else that's already in the stream or in those lanes. You got to at least match the speed so you don't get run over. And that's what we have to do with our recording. The next part is the quality production. And I'm going to give you a bit of game and experience here. If you can get the quality recording, great. I understand that your production may not be because of what you have, the tools and things that you have now. You either A, may not have the greatest tools, or B, you may have the greatest tools and just don't know how to get the best sound out of them. And that's a lot of you all. But yet and still, our freeway example has to come in. You have to at least do enough to match what's going on to get recognized for what you do. So the quality has to match. I'm not saying you have to do what they do. The quality of your production and your recordings have to at least match what's happening out there in the mainstream so that you can get the recognition to get to the next level. Okay? So when I came in, I studied under the legendary, rest in peace, Alvin Speights. For those of you all who don't know Alvin Speights, he's a legendary engineer out in the game, mixing engineer, and he passed away last year, a year before last, and I learned so much from him, and he gave me my first opportunity outside of my internship, simply because he didn't want to do the recording, and I didn't know how to make coffee as an intern, so he just shipped me off to another situation. Funny story, I'll talk about it on a Storytime or something like that. But I came in under him. The producer that he was working with at the time was the legendary K-Rab. Some of you all know him. One of his top records was Laffy, Taffy. And those records were mixed around me. I was around it. I was around K-Rab Sound. I watched them making it on FL Studio at the time, or Fruity Loops at the time. And then he would take it to Alvin and get it mixed. But Alvin would give him that professional shine, right, to actually push it out there, to mash up with everybody else that's really happening out there. So he took the Fruity Loop sounds and he mixed it with his expertise, for 30 plus years, and he put his expertise on it, and it made it shine so that K-Rab could get some recognition and go to the next level. And that's what I mean right there. So that's a little bit of a story right there from my past to help you out with that, because that's what you're going to need. You're not going to be great in the beginning, but you got to at least get enough quality to get some recognition to go to the next level. Now, I'm going to say this is a big thing for you all who are dealing with artists locally. Can this artist get to you easily? Do they need a ride to the studio? How close are they? Are they like in a regional location? Like, are they like an hour radius of you, a 2 hour, 3 hour radius? Because the more space and time between your recording sessions and your vibe sessions that you have, the more easy it's going to be for that artist to go and experiment with other people. Now, artists, I'm not trying to put some control on you. What I am saying is, when you're in a production deal, I want you to really think about who you're working with and how can you really cater to the situation to make the deal better for yourself, okay? And the producer as well, because now we got everybody involved in this situation. Now, producer, when that artist is away, they're going to experiment with other people. You just have to put yourself in a mindset position to understand that, okay, underneath a production deal, if I let this artist go out and work with other producers and we want to put something out based on what this other producer did, I'm going to have to pony up some cash or some type of equity in this particular situation for that one particular song to kind of make it work. All right, that's not the only options you have. There are other options you can negotiate with. I'm just saying. When you bring in outside production, that dwindles what you're trying to do with your sound and the artist that you're building with. Doesn't mean that it can't work. I've done it, and I'll encourage the artist to go work with other people. But I do want to say to the producer and the artist that producer, you have to maintain the majority control of recordings that's going on. And artist, you have to be understanding of the fact that you're in a production deal, and you have to let the producer that you sign with get the majority of those recordings. So when you're away for a while and you're doing your thing and you're experiencing different producers and different sounds, don't forget that you signed with this one producer to produce some masters for them. Okay. Now, as a producer, do you have a partner? As a producer, you got to have a partner in this game. Okay. Because while you're doing the recording, the mixing, the mastering, you know what I'm saying? You're doing the producing of the records, all of that stuff. You got to have someone on the business end that's going to help you. It's kind of like a manager. All right. And they're going to help you manage your production company, and they're going to have to understand what's going on with your production deal. All right. This person is also going to relay some of their business experience into the deal with marketing experience. Because in a lot of cases, that production deal, for it to work, you're going to need at least one release, and you're going to need some traction on that release. And if you don't have any traction, meaning you don't have any marketing experience, well, we're in a world of trouble, because now the deal, even though you may have fulfilled your deal with that one release, it doesn't warrant the next release. Like, we want to do one release so we can get the recognition and we can get, a little bit of cash flow going, so that the artist says, yes, I think this is good, let's go to the next release. Or if you have them in an option type of deal where they have to do one album and an option to do the second, if you meet a certain threshold, then that second project isn't lackluster because the artist is now discouraged with the results that they had from the first album or the first project. You get what I'm saying? So you got to have some experience on releasing some records. So the best thing you might want to do is try to put out some instrumental tapes, build up your chops on marketing your own stuff first before you focus on an artist. You get what I'm saying? Maybe you might want to release an instrumental album first and put that artist on there so you can understand how it would work if you're going to work with an artist. So what about the attorney? The attorney is going to draft the agreement. You will not pull the production agreement from Google. You know why I won't? And you know why I'm telling you this? Is because the deals that are on Google do not adhere to what a standard production deal should be to actually work for you. It's too universal. And because at this point you might not know how to read a contract, you need to sit down with someone who can get all of your points together and say, okay, this is the type of contract you want for your particular situation, because I guarantee you that stuff that's on Google will not work for you. 96% of the time it won't, because you don't know how to read the contract right now. So therefore you need the attorney on your team as a producer. Now on the flip side, as an artist, you need an attorney too, because once the producer gets their attorney to draft this agreement with all the legal jargon that this attorney just stuffed into it, you're going to need an attorney to read through that production agreement as well. So you make sure that you're good for your safety, right? So that no one's wasting anyone's time. Producers, in your contracts, you shouldn't over-obligate yourself to stuff. Artists, you shouldn't over-obligate yourself to stuff with this producer if there isn't no proven track record yet. So this is the thing that you all have to work on with your attorneys, all right? Now, is your company set up to properly fulfill the deal? Not only does your attorney have to draft a great contract, but then when you put it to work on paper, what are the percentages that you're taking? Are you taking publishing? How much of the master are you taking? You get what I'm saying? And the rights that you're taking in the deal. When you take these rights on paper, they've got to be registered. You know what I'm saying? The money flow for the release of the first project in that deal has to be done properly at the mechanical locations, the PROs, the distributor. Because if you're using DistroKid and you're using the Teams function to pay out artist royalties, you got to do that. But on top of that, the contract has to be bound to a company and not you personally. This is why I recommend the 60-day label. It's strictly set for that. I strictly made it for the people who want to build record companies, production companies, publishing companies. I mean, you name it. The artist building your DIY record companies. It is strictly there for that. Get it done in 60 days. Out the door. You set the goal. So when the attorney does the contract and you have that LLC set already exactly as the LLC should work for this particular situation, we can just get to work, baby. That's it. That's all I want to do is make you to allow you to make money with your creations. So that, we got to do that. You got to grab a 60-day label. Anyway, do you have significant industry connections or access to them? Because in addition to putting this out, right, Here's an expectation manage thing we got to do. This artist is going to want something more than just your one-time release. They're going if you get traction with them, they're going to want more than what you can do. And the funny thing is, I'm thinking about some of you all who booked a call with me. I'm thinking about you and your artist. So I don't know if you can see me. I'm actually thinking about you, and you probably can feel the energy resonating around it because I see some of you all doing well, but I see the capabilities lacking. And from that, you're going to need some industry connections to make your production deal work here. Because you're going to want to level the artist up, because if the artist gets disappointed with your output, with your performance on getting them to the next level, it doesn't matter if you're in the production deal or not. The artist is not going to want to continue, and they're just going to sit on the sidelines until they feel like the deal is no longer valid. And oh my God, I've seen this happen with people I can't name, because some of you know these people. Anyway, I'll give you a little bit of experience, and I'll try to finish. I know this is a long video, but the artist more than likely will sit on the sidelines for 2, 3, 4 years, and they'll think that the deal is over, but it's actually not, because they're still signed to the deal. And then they'll go and they'll get into another situation with somebody else and try to sign, and then you'll come back and say, no, we still in a deal. And then now the new people that signed this artist, they looking at the artist like, yo, I thought you said you wasn't in the deal. And then now they got to sit down with attorneys, and now this artist is now tarnished because you said that they were still in a deal that you all didn't facilitate or didn't fulfill. You didn't even do an exit agreement with them. That's something else right there, because if they want to exit the deal, you can say, sure, you can exit the deal, but you got to do X, Y, and Z upon your new deal. Add some game right there for you. So if this artist gets disappointed with what you're doing, then you're going to want those industry connections to keep leveling them up and leveling up what you're doing, so that you maintain the expectations and the morality of everybody. Will you co-manage the artist, or will they have their own manager? That's the next question, because if you have your manager for your production company and everything that you all are doing here, will your team manage that artist as well? You get what I'm saying? Because as you grow as a production company, you might want to sign another artist and another artist, because maybe the first release did really, really well and you've got more interest coming in. That artist is going to need a manager. Are you and your team going to manage that artist, or are you going to go and get your manager? So this is something to think about here. Because as a production company, you got other things to maintain other than this artist, right? Because remember, as a production company, you're kind of like a makeshift record company. Your job is to sell the music. The manager for the artist, their job is to sell the artist. And that's game right there. You know what I mean? So that's a question that you need to ask. Lastly on my list is, will you shop for a label deal? Now, I was asked this question by a prominent manager. He has managed countless A-list artists. He's still in the game doing his thing. Still managing A-list artists. And he sat down at the table with me, and I asked him this question. I said, should I do a production deal with this particular artist? He asked me this question. He said, will you shop for a label deal? I said, no, I don't really think I want to do all of that. And he asked me that, number one, for his positioning, but number two, managing my expectations, because he was going to be the one that was going to shop for the deal. But he was totally fine if I was going to sign that, because he could have still shopped the deal. But he asked me, will you shop for a label deal if you have this artist underneath a production contract? And I sat back in the chair kind of like this, and I looked down. I was like, nah. And he said, well, I don't think that you need to sign a production deal with this artist. And so I figured out some other way we made it work, but that was a real question. For you as a lone producer in this particular situation, if you don't have the industry connections, you don't have the company set up, the attorney, the business partner, all this stuff, this is the biggest question on the books here. And for you artists, you need to understand, if they don't have all of that stuff and they're not willing to shop the deal for the distribution or the record deal, you don't need to be in a production deal with them. And producers, you don't need to do the production deal either, because it's going to be too much headache for you, because you'll be trying to keep up with the deal, and you'll be racking your brain because you don't have the experience or the connections. So if you want to do something like this, producers, you got work to do. Grab the 60-day label and build the company first. Then go get the attorney. Find your business partner. You all sit down with the attorney. You go through the deal together. The contract has to attach to the LLC that you build based on the 60-day label. And then once you do that, then you can run the numbers on the contract. You can see how much you're willing to spend, how much you're going to get in royalties. Okay? And artists, you need to do the same thing too. Grab the 60-day label because you need the publishing side of it. You need to make sure you're collecting your publishing because more than likely in the production deal, you're probably going to lose the rights to the masters, more than likely, if not 100% chance. So I'm just letting you know all of this too. Here's the thing. When all this is done, you will become that hottest producer out if you can kind of meet all those expectations there. You'll have the hottest artist because you got the hottest sound. You'll get the millions of dollars, the experiences of a lifetime. You'll get all of that. I just don't want you to get lost in the sauce of the dreamy vision because a lot of people, they fail at this and they quit because it became too hard and the relationships went sour. I don't care if you might have been messing around with the artist or it's just that the deal messed around with the relationship together that you had and you end up wasting time. You play with their lives and their money. You play with your life and your money and you waste time and then everybody goes sour and people say, yo, I don't want to do this no more. That's the downside. The upside is all that dreamy stuff I just said. But I want you to be cognizant of that. Change your mindset. You know what I mean? Move from that inexperienced producer mindset, mind space to the producer that can grow artists over time. Over and over again because you understand how a production deal works. Look, I know this was a long video, but hey, look, I really enjoy giving you all this game like over a 20-minute span. So with that being said, Music Money Makers, visit musicmoneymakeover.com, download the 60-day label, book a call with me there. And remember, if you make music, you should make money. All right? I'll see you next time. Peace.